Hi, it's Chris, and this is my review of reading through the Bible in a year chronologically. This is September 10th, and tonight was Daniel 10 through 11, and then 12, a little bit in 13. It says 13, yeah, 12, 1 through 13. So, and then we get into Ezra chapter 4, verses 24 through 5:1, and then a Haggai chapter 1. So that's what we're in tonight. So the first thing that stood out to me in my reading tonight with Daniel is this Daniel in this account, this area of Daniel in chapter 10. Daniel gets another vision, and again, this is a second and third time that God says through an angel that Daniel, you are very precious to God. So listen carefully. Stand up. You don't need to be afraid. And it says, since the first day you began to pray for understanding and to humble yourself before God, your request has been heard in heaven. And I have come to answer your prayer. But for 21 days the spirit prince of the kingdom of Persia blocked my way. Then Michael, one of the archangels, came to help me, and I left him there with the spirit prince of the kingdom of Persia. Again, we'll see. We got to keep looking at this. Now I am here to explain what will happen to your people. Okay, so this angel is the messenger. This is an angel that has a message for Daniel, who God finds precious. And why does he find precious? Was because of his humility, his obedience. That's what Daniel is all about. He's very humble. He's very obedient. He's an exile. He's a prisoner in another country, and he has also been made to have authority. He's been brought up by the different kings. A couple different kings now have recognized the Spirit of God in him, and he is trustworthy. He has had people that come against him because he's so trustworthy, and they don't like what they see. They don't like that God is working through him, and that he is obedient and trustworthy, and always has the best interest of others in mind. He's not out for himself, and that's why God is pleased with him. It's his humility. He says, for the first day you began to pray for understanding and humble yourself before your God. Your request has been heard. So you want to be heard by God? Humble yourself. Know that the only way to be known by God and heard by God is for him to speak as he wills. We can't will God to do anything. He is the Lord God. He made everything. Humble yourself before him. And then again he says, for you are precious to God. Peace, be encouraged, be strong. And then again we get to see that these angels that are for Daniel and are messengers for him, they're fighting against the princes of these countries. The prince of Persia, or the prince of the kingdom of Persia, the prince of the kingdom of Egypt, or the prince of the kingdom of Greece. Michael is beside them, and they're fighting against these princes of the kingdom. So what does that mean? It's a glimpse into the spirit world that it's not just what we see on this earth. And that's where Ephesians 6 says our battle isn't with flesh and blood, but with principalities and powers of this world. These are evil spirits that are leading these people, leading the whole nations, and getting them to do this. And then we see, the next little while here is all about the kings of the north and the south and the north, and all the battles that wage between them back and forth, and how that happens. But the key part in all that in Daniel chapter 11 verse 32 is that the people who know their God will be strong and resist the evil one. And again, I had to add that a little bit because of the backstory, but there's that. And then in Daniel chapter 12, we see at that time, Michael the archangel, who stands guard over your nation, will arise, and there will be a time of anguish greater than any nation since then. But at the time, every one of your people whose name is written in the book will be rescued. The Lamb's Book of Heaven, I'm assuming, that book. Many of those whose bodies lie dead and buried will rise up, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting disgrace. And I didn't even read that. I'd highlighted this years ago, and I just see it now, that at some point will be risen up, and those who are in everlasting life will come to God, and those will be risen up to shame and everlasting disgrace. But the everlasting life is for those who humble themselves and are pleasing, like Daniel. So we see that, and then we see prophecy against the temple, and the God calls his people to get busy on building the temple. We go back to the temple building, and God says, hey, you guys live in fancy houses and are worried about yourselves. You need to get busy on the temple. Honor me. Honor me. He didn't care about a building. God doesn't care about a building. He really doesn't. What he cares about is honoring him and serving him and glorifying him. Everything we do should be to glorify God. So, yeah, that's the last little bit is from Haggai. And when they heard the words of the prophet Haggai, whom the Lord God had sent, the people feared the Lord. And that changes the heart of God. That changes the actions of God. When we fear God, that changes the actions of God toward us into blessings. It's not doing anything in a certain way. It's fearing God and being humble before him. It's not doing or not doing. It's fearing God. When we fear God, we will fear the things that God has said, don't do that. Those things are for us anyway. It's for our own good. It's by grace we are saved, not by works, but our works will show that we are saved, right? So we get that. The other thing that really I didn't touch on, I'm going back to it, but in Haggai, chapter 1, verse 11, he says, I have called for a drought on your fields and hills, and a drought to wither the grain and grapes and olive trees and all your other crops, a drought to starve you and your livestock, and to ruin everything you have worked so hard to get. Do we realize how much power that God has? Or do we look to the full grocery store shelves and think, God couldn't do that to us? Do we trust in God enough, or do we trust in our system? A grocery store system and manufacturer's system. Our food is manufactured, but it comes from the ground. It comes from the fruit of the ground. It's God's grace that allowed that food to be grown, harvested, fertilized, all the stuff that's been happened to it. God allowed that to happen, and he can shut it off just like that. He has that power and authority. Don't get too comfortable believing in the things that you see on the grocery store shelves. Trust in God, humble yourself before him, and he will take care of you.